It's been quite some time. I haven't been doing the video reviews as much lately. Not that I've been trading all that much either, but there were days that I definitely would like to do a video review on. However, I found that I did these really in-depth write-ups that I shared with the group. However, I don't feel like I need to go over it again in video format, but this is something I'm going to definitely be bringing back in the coming days and weeks. I do miss it because I think there is significant value in being able to reiterate what went on and review in verbal format. So before I review my own trades, and I'm not going to go over the best setups of this day, which I believe is the 31st of October, I would rather spend the beginning of this video just talking about, and parts of the end as well, just talking about where I'm at, what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, certain goals or ideas that I have moving forward. So let's get into it. First trade is pretty straightforward. We have this wedging here, the tapering from white to red, and I took it pretty tight up in the wedge, reduced positions. However, I do think I could have taken a full position with a very tight stop right above here, targeting the pre-market lows. Not a bad trade. I got a little antsy with this first scale hit. We hadn't broken the pre-market lows. I should have just set it to break even where the RR was still in my favor and just waited for that break of PM lows. That would have been best. And this other trade is along the lines of this issue that has been with me for a while, and there were periods of times where I really felt like I fixed it, and I feel like I need to go back and actually be cognizant and intentional in reworking that issue. Because I do feel like when I focus on it, there is a significant improvement in my trading and in how I approach it. So this was a trade where I was, look, and this is relating back to when I talk about certain issues and ideas that I feel need more attention, and it's not the analysis, it's not sitting and doing more of Eric's analysis, even though of course it's extremely helpful. It's not reading more psychology or more morning routines. My biggest weakness is in those minutes leading up to the trade is when I'm sitting in front of the market and there's dead space and I get distracted. I go on Discord, I look at other things, I talk to people, I look at things on my phone, and I come back to the charts and I see a green candle or I see a red candle that looks pretty like this one, and I just have trained my mind, and I quickly look at the volume here on that green candle, and my mind just goes ape mode and immediately thinks that it's something that I need to be entering and jumping in on. And that's also not how I have to be trading. I mean, obviously, I don't think I even had the same teal controlled selling algo charted at the time. I just jumped in the trade to jump into the trade. And because I saw the green, because I wanted to get involved, because I had FOMO from this, because I saw, oh, well, there's a little bit of liquidity here, let's jump in. And that's just, I mean, look at the 5-minute here and see how this was getting engulfed by these red candles and rejecting hard at the high of day and likely to be choppy. And I think that was my major issue, in that I wasn't taking the time to actually plan for what I wanted to see from the bulls or the bears. And when you don't plan ahead, when you don't actually in a concrete and systemic manner say, all right, if this and this occurs with these algos or this structure or these candles or this volume, then I won't trade. But when you have no plan, then it's easy to get flip-flopped or tossed around or trapped and seduced by whatever signals the market's going to give you. And because there's no plan, there's no structure, or there's no adherence to, there's no incentive either to adhere to a specific set of rules that you want to see. And if you don't see those rules, then there's no, and metrics, then there's no trade entry. And that's what I struggled with here, is it's just, oh, the green candle and the next candle is flying up here, let me jump in. And that's the primary weakness. I feel like I do need to go back and say, okay, well, I have these red channels here. What if there's this tapering here, right? And it gets caught. I mean, that's just the next setup, right? So it's like those red channels holding. Oh, it holds here, and it fakes out to the bottom of the blue controlled selling. It re-enters. There's this liquidity grab on the breakout. You can enter right here. So these are the things I need to be planning for. I need to say, oh, well, either there's this red controlled buying that breaks right here, and then we grab this liquidity right here, right? So red controlled buying breaks, grabs this move right here, head and shoulder pattern. Or where was this same controlled selling, and we form the head, we break down, we form the head fake out liquidity grab right here on this left shoulder, on the breakout of, and then we go upwards, right? And that's, like, I can plan those things out in my head, and I can, but it's a matter of actually taking the time to concretely, and concretely isn't even a word, but do it in a concrete and systemic and analytical and intelligent way where you are actually taking the time to do this. Like, I take the time to, I do all of the work outside of the charts, outside of the trading floor. I do probably the opposite of what a lot of people have, which is they do all the work trading, but outside of trading hours, they're not doing much. And I'm the opposite. And I need to work on my actual performance, my actual focus, my actual sitting there with the chair in the room, planning the entries, taking losses, not taking trades because they don't adhere to my plan, taking wins, and all in a way that is very grounded in a specific set of rules. Look, let's see the next setup here. Yeah, same idea, same issue of there's the same blue controlled selling here, but I also know, like, look how many overlapping bars, overlap. It's just extremely choppy, and then I just have this line here that's not even validated for anything. This blue line, I'm like, oh, it's breaking out, okay, in. And it just grabs the liquidity above, traps people like me, runs stop, and reverses the other side beautifully. And I miss my short setup. And what's interesting, at this point in time, I also had planned for a short setup. I had something like, head here. I wanted just to grab this liquidity here with a break of this channel, this red channel, right? Just like Eric would do. Or something where we come down, retest low of day cup, and continue lower. So the issue for me is, like, I had a short idea in mind, but I didn't have a long setup in mind. And with that, there was nothing for me to actually latch onto in terms of requirements or indications of structures and algos and price action to actually jump into a trade. So when that's the case, as soon as I see green, or I see a little bit of strength or a little bit of red, then you want to jump in, and the market is just inducing you, the market is seducing you and faking you into whatever it is. And it's not even to say that it's faking you, I mean, it's just information, but you are getting tossed around by the information overload that the market is presenting at all times, to all people, to everyone. And again, if I would have sat here and I said, okay, well, I see the same teal controlled, however, and I see this teal controlled here, however, this is quite choppy. Maybe if we get a more significant, if this cup here completes, and sorry, that's such a mess, and we get a more significant pullback, with a head forming right here, liquidity grab on the break here for a long, or if we're looking for shorts, then this head here with a break of red here, grabbing this liquidity down here. So I would plan for these two, and I would just sit there in patience and silence and calm, with alerts, without alerts, I don't know. I would just say to myself, without the plan, without these ideas and parameters coming to fruition, there is nothing. There is no trade. And I didn't do that. I didn't have a setup to go long. I was only thinking of a plan to go short. And the moment I see a little bit of green, I just jump in. So look, same mistake as Friday, jumping into that chop zone. Very weak structure, and it's just not a good trade. It's just one of those trades where you take the hit and you're like, oh my gosh, I really messed up. Like this is not a trade I can be proud of. And that's something I have to be asking myself with my flowchart. I created a flowchart over the weekend where there's certain guidelines to every trade. What is the structure? Where's the liquidity? Have I planned it out? What is the plan on the opposing side of the trade I want to take? What's the plan on the trade I want to take? Is there tapering? Am I calm? Have I accepted the risk? Is this a trade I would take if Eric was watching my shoulder? I mean, these are things that I feel like I'm missing, that I need to ask myself and be more aware and pay more attention to and respect more. It's a matter of respect. It's a matter of diligence and respect before I enter the trade. That's really what it is for me. And this was the last trade that was totally fine. I thought it was okay. I held the bottom of the red, good volume coming in on this candle, aiming for high of day break, grabbing this liquidity, but it was already quite choppy. I mean, look at these wicks here, wick. And you get stopped out break even. This is probably more an indication of like, look, we're just in this very tight range here. We're just like doom, right? So probably best to stay out. But yeah, those are the trades. I still want to talk more about general ideas that I have about myself in the coming weeks, in the coming days. Look, I do really love this, and I do really work. I feel like I work smart. I'm organized. I'm very practical, and I outline what a typical study day looks like before every day. I do really try to maximize my time and my efforts. I think for me, where the issue is coming in and where the struggling is coming in is in that I'm not seeing the progress that I want to see with regards to my actual like concrete P&L results. Look, I'm more disciplined than I ever was. I'm more technically, analytically knowledgeable than I ever was. I am more experienced and mature than I ever was. So I'm improving in a lot of ways. However, I can see those process-oriented results, those process improvements. However, in my actual P&L and in my day-to-day wins and losses, I don't see that being reflected. And I think that's because there is that execution side of the trade that I am missing so severely, that I am so severely lacking in. And I kind of realized that when I went to the 5 minute and I could see how much slower things were, I could see how much clearer things were, yet I would still just kind of brain fart and lose my focus, lose my patience, lose my analytics. And that's also partially because I'm just sitting there and it takes 5 minutes for every candle to load, and I don't have anything to do, and I'm an antsy person and I'm an energetic person, and I have to feel like I'm doing something, and I get bored and I get impulsive. and I just jumped into the trade because I know I can do this. I can look at this chart and I can tell you beautifully all of these setups, and I can find these in real time. I mean, I think my charting is very strong. I think my understanding of algos and the structures here and how this price action works, I think it's very strong. And liquidity, look, I can put on a freaking great trade. I just, I can't sit there, and this is a recurring theme. It is really something I'm dealing with. But I can't sit there and say to myself, look, you're going to look at these charts, you're going to sit here, and you're going to prepare for this to the best of your ability, and you're going to prepare for this to the best of your ability. And these are the, as of it stands with the current information and my current understanding of whatever it is with regards to charting and analysis, that these are the best setups. And that's where I think I struggle the most, is that I don't do that, and I need to get back. I was doing it for some time, and I need to. I stopped. I stopped because I got complacent, even though I knew it was helping. So why did I stop? Laziness or boredom or just the lack of adherence and care for that sort of habit building and that aspect of my trading. I don't think it's that important, even though it is really the biggest thing I'm missing. Look, I know I can be going into the market and consistently pulling wins, consistently pulling green days. It's all the, there's this quote from John Jones. He says, like, the butterflies in my stomach are in formation. And for me, I would say, like, all of the abilities are there. All of the technicals and understanding is there. It's about now actually filtering out the BS and the noise and the impulsiveness and the laziness and the bad habits and the boredom, putting on a plan, watching the market with focus. It's so hard to be focused. Everyone has fucking ADHD these days, right? It's like it is really difficult. That is something I struggle with, and it's not just in trading. I mean, it's in general in class. When I talk to people, when I try and think about something, it is so hard for me to focus, and I need to walk into the market, into the trading floor, onto the trading day, and I need to be ultra aware of that. And I know that's going to make me better. I know that's the next step. Because if I can go back and chart all these out with clarity, as on replay or in real time, and I can understand all of them and explain them in such a clear way, then I am a great analyst, but I'm not a great trader. And the difference there is that something that a great trader has to do that an analyst will never have to do, is a great trader has to constantly be preparing and assessing with the current knowledge what are the probabilities of this scenario versus this scenario, and then acting accordingly to those scenarios. And that's a level of maturity and focus that I don't have yet, but I will.